In the shadowy world of espionage, alliances are fleeting, and trust is a rare commodity. The world's most powerful intelligence agencies, Mossad, the CIA, and the KGB, have spent decades locked in a silent war, each vying for secrets, assets, and influence. But sometimes the greatest battles are not fought on the streets or in the corridors of power, but in the shadows, where a single defection, a stolen file, or a double-cross can change the course of history. Tonight we unravel one of the most audacious operations of the Cold War, how Mossad, Israel's legendary spy agency, outmaneuvered both the CIA and the KGB to capture the Soviet Union's most feared interrogator, a man whose name inspired terror from Moscow to Berlin. This is a story of betrayal, cunning, and the relentless pursuit of justice, where the stakes were nothing less than life and death. His real name was Viktor Baranov, but in the files of Western intelligence he was known simply as the Butcher. As a senior officer in the KGB's Department of Special Interrogations, Baranov was infamous for his brutal methods. He was the architect of countless confessions, the ghost behind the iron doors of Lubyanka prison. For decades, he extracted secrets from spies, dissidents, and traitors, leaving a trail of broken men and shattered lives. But as the Soviet Union began to crumble in the late 1980s, Baranov's world changed. The KGB was purging its ranks, and Baranov, now a liability, found himself hunted by his own. Desperate, he reached out to the only people who might save him, the Americans. The CIA saw an opportunity. Baranov was a goldmine of intelligence. He knew the KGB's darkest secrets, its networks in the West, and the identities of double agents. The agency launched a covert operation, codenamed Operation Nightfall, to extract Baranov from Eastern Europe and bring him safely to the United States. A team of CIA officers, led by veteran case officer Jack Reynolds, set up a safe house in Vienna. The plan was simple. Baranov would be smuggled out of Moscow, travel through a series of safe routes, and rendezvous with the CIA team in Austria. From there, he would be flown to Washington, debriefed, and given a new identity. But the CIA was not the only agency watching. Unbeknownst to the Americans, Mossad had been tracking Baranov for years. To Israel, he was not just a source of intelligence, he was a war criminal. Baranov had overseen the torture and execution of Jewish dissidents in the Soviet Union, and Mossad had sworn to bring him to justice. Through a network of informants, Mossad learned of the CIA's plan. They knew the routes, the safe houses, and even the names of the American handlers. For Mossad, this was a rare chance not only to capture Baranov, but to outmaneuver their American allies and rivals in a single devastating blow. The operation unfolded with clockwork precision. Baranov slipped out of Moscow, evading KGB surveillance. He crossed into Hungary, then Austria, using forged documents provided by the TIA. In Vienna, he was met by Jack Reynolds and his team, who believed they had pulled off the perfect exfiltration. But Mossad was already in place. Disguised as hotel staff, taxi drivers, and even fellow travelers, Mossad operatives shadowed every move. They intercepted phone calls, monitored the safe house, and waited for the perfect moment to strike. That moment came on a cold November night. As the CIA prepared to move Baranov to the airport, their convoy was ambushed. In a matter of minutes, Mossad agents neutralized the CIA's security detail, seized Baranov, and vanished into the Vienna night. The Americans were left stunned, their operation in ruins. News of Baranov's disappearance sent shockwaves through the KGB. They had been tracking his movements, hoping to silence him before he could talk. Now, with Baranov in Mossad's hands, the Soviets feared their darkest secrets would be exposed. Desperate, the KGB launched a frantic manhunt across Europe. Agents were dispatched to Vienna, Berlin, and Rome, searching for any trace of Baranov or his captors. But Mossad's tradecraft was legendary. Baranov was spirited out of Austria using a series of safe houses, false identities, and covert flights. By the time the KGB realized what had happened, Baranov was already in Israel. In Tel Aviv, Baranov was held in a secure facility, interrogated by Mossad's top officers. He was offered a deal, cooperate, and he would be spared prosecution. Refuse, and he would face trial. For crimes against humanity, Baranov, ever the survivor, chose to talk. Over weeks of debriefings, he revealed the KGB's methods, its networks in the Middle East, and the names of Soviet agents embedded in Western governments. The intelligence he provided led to the dismantling of several KGB operations and the arrest of multiple Soviet spies. For Mossad, it was a triumph. They had not only brought a war criminal to justice, but had struck a devastating blow against both the KGB and the CIA. The aftermath was explosive. The CIA, humiliated and furious, demanded answers from their Israeli counterparts. Diplomatic cables flew between Washington and Tel Aviv, but Mossad refused to apologize. In their eyes, justice had been served. The KGB, meanwhile, launched a purge of its own ranks, hunting for the moles who had betrayed Baranov's escape. Paranoia swept through the Soviet intelligence community, weakening its operations for years to come. As for Baranov, he disappeared into the shadows, his fate known only to a handful of Mossad officers. Some say he lived out his days in an Israeli prison. Others believe he was quietly relocated, his knowledge too valuable to risk. The story of how Mossad crushed the CIA's operation and stole the KGB's most feared torturer is more than a tale of spies and secrets. It is a stark reminder that, in the world of intelligence, there are no permanent friends or enemies, only shifting alliances and the relentless pursuit of advantage. In the end, the greatest victories are often the ones the world never sees, and the deepest betrayals are written not in headlines, but in the silence of the shadows.